Hello all, welcome to CEC lectures. Myself Dr. Preeti Chagwani. I am Assistant Professor from Department of Computer Science, Aryabhat College, Delhi University. In our series which we have started earlier, that is Introduction to Programming in C++, today's topic is functions. So now whenever we talk about the code reusability in any type of programming language, the answer here or the idea is to use functions. So functions is basically we can say used when some common or repeated executing task is required to be done. So basically if we go into formal definition, a set of statements that takes inputs to do some specific computation and produces output. So we can say it's a small module. It is a kind of a small snippet of code, set of statements which individually takes some input, may or may not take input. It will do some specific execution, some specific computation, and it will produce some specific or designated output. So that set of statements or that code snippet is basically known as function, and whenever we want to use that functionality which that function is providing us, we can call that function. So let's see how it goes on. First of all, let us try to understand what actually is the general syntax of a function, how the function is being written. So whenever we are going to write a function, we have to have four specific things. One is the return type, another one the function name, third one is the list of arguments or we can say list of parameters, and the fourth one is code. So return type is basically what kind of value it is returning. Function name, as the name indicates, is the name of the function. Then whatever value is being passed to the function is contained in our argument list, and then there is a code which is going to perform that specific computation for which the function is being designed. Okay, so you please wait for a short while. I'll be taking all the four types into much detail soon. So let us take an example. I'm having an example of the function return here, which is the function min, and the return type which is written just before the name of the function is int. So int min, int is the return type of the function, that means what kind of value this function is going to return. Then min is the name of the function, and then within the small brackets just after the name of the function, I have written int x comma int y. So basically there are two parameters, one is x, another one is y, and they both are of type integer. So normally when we declare two integers inside the main, we say int x comma y, but here that strategy is not going to work. We need to say integer x comma integer y separately, and within the curly brackets there is a code return which says if x is less than y, then this function will return x, else this function will return y. So basically what this function is doing is very simple. This is just taking minimum of two values, and these two values are actually passed to this function in the form of variables x and y, and these x and y are here known as parameters of the function. So if x is less than y, it is going to return x, if else it is going to return y. So minimum of the x or y. Now this is the function which we have written inside in any .cpp file, but if we want to use it, how that can be done, let's see. So that can be done, for example, along with hash include iostream.h and using namespace standard, I'm going to write a complete set program. So here I have written a main function integer main void, and within this main function I have taken two values, one integer a is equals to 10 and b is equals to 20. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to call that function min, which was actually already defined. And in order to call that function, what I am going to do is I'll say min a comma b, and now this min a comma b, whatever result this min a comma b is going to give, that is going to be stored in a value m. And because the return type of min integer x y we have said is an integer, so that's why here the m has to be an integer. So just see here, the return type was integer, and so whatever value your min function is returning will be stored inside an integer variable only. So here we have said int m equals to min a comma b. So a and b will be the two parameters which are passed here inside the min function, and whatever value this min function is going to return is going to get placed or is going to get inserted into a variable m, which is obviously of type integer. And then we have returned, we have printed the value of m, whatever the value of m is. So here what will happen when the execution is being started, the execution always starts from the main function. Main is also a function, I am coming to that in a short while. So integer main will be executed, and here we have declared two variables, a is equals to 10 and b is equals to 20, and these two variables will be passed on to min function. So basically in the line integer m is equals to min a comma b, what are we doing? We are actually calling that min function which we have written already, and with that call I am going to pass two parameters, one is a, another one is b, or both of type integer, into the min function. And whatever, now what will happen when we call this min function, the control will go to the code of the min function, that code will be executed, and whatever return value is being calculated will be assigned to m. And then after completion, that means after coming to the closing bracket after return y, the control will be again transferred to the main function, and the main function will start its execution again from the line which is followed by the call to the min function. That means wherever we have called the function, the line which is following that function will be executed. So that is the printing cout here. So value m will be printed and return 0 is the normal thing which we return, and this return 0 is what we are going to explore in a short while. So exactly when I am talking about the function main, as you can see here, we generally write integer main and void. So what is happening here, main is also a function. For main presently we have not passed any parameters, we have not passed any arguments, so that the parenthesis list after main is actually void, is actually having nothing, and this function main is returning an integer value. That's why at the end of the main, just before the closing brackets, we have returned 0. So 0 is an integer value. Why this return 0 is being quoted here or is being returned here? So basically just to fulfill that int main condition. So int main void means integer is the return value which main function is returning. Main is the name of the function and it is with no parameter list, so that's why a void is in between. Now it's not like that main is not going to have any parameter ever. Main can also have some parameter that we will see in our upcoming lectures. So here the three things which are important, or the four things which are important here, is the return type, the name of the function, the parameter list, and the body of the function or the code which we have returned. So main is yes also an function. So here we have two functions. One is a calling function, another one a function which is being called, a called function. So here we can see our min function is a called function, and who is calling this min is being called inside the function main. So main has become the calling function and min is the called function. So whatever values min is going to get in the form of parameters are given by the main function. So main function is going to call a particular function, or we can say generally calling function is going to call a function, and in that call value of parameters or value of arguments will be passed. So here a and b are two variables which are the variables declared inside main, and main is calling the function min and passing that variables a and b. So along with the control, what is being given to the function which is being called, that is min, along with the control the value of arguments is being given. Now the control is being passed to min whenever it is called, and then the whole body of the min function is going to be executed, and the control is finally returned to the calling function, which is the main function here in case, and along with the calling function there is also one return value. So the control, or you can say execution, plus the value of parameters or the list of parameters is one thing which a calling function is giving to the called function, while after completing the execution the called function is returning the execution control along with the return value. So from calling to called, the control plus the value of parameters, from called to calling is the return value plus the control back. So this is what the thing is. Now one question which comes up directly in the mind is, here we say that main is the calling function and min is the called function. Perfectly right. Now who is calling main? So the answer here is operating system. Operating system is calling the main function, and then main function internally is calling the function min. So that's what the idea here is. The main is also a function with the name main main. Now it could be void. If we are not returning 0, then the return type is void, and it may or may not be with the parameters. So till this point, whatever examples of main function we have seen are actually having no parameter list, but yes, it can have a set parameter list if we want to have, or if our application demands for that. Now coming to the categories or the type of C++ functions in C++, or we can say normally these functions can be divided into two parts, or these are having two types. One is the built-in functions, another one is the user defined function. Now let us try to explore them one by one. What is built-in function and what actually a user defined function is. So coming to built-in functions, another name for built-in function is also library functions. These are the functions which are provided or written inside the C++ library, and we need not to write them ourselves. It's not the user or it's not the programmer's responsibility to write those functions which are already built in, and we can directly use these functions in our code. Until this point we have used many. These functions are placed in the header files of C++, and these are just placed in the header files of C++, and we are going to include those header files in our program, and we can directly use that functions. That's the idea behind built-in functions. Already written, we can just call them. We need not to define them, we need not to write the code. Now for example, I am having header files like cmath or string, and these are having inbuilt math functions and string functions respectively. For example, I need to determine the length of a string, so the function is len. So that len function I have not written. Len function is written inside string.h or cmath. For example, I want to find out square root of a number, so the function is sqrt. So that sqrt function I have not written, that is already written inside the cmath library. What I need to do in order to use that sqrt function, I'll just say hash include cmath, and then I'll start using this sqrt. So for example, I can say x is equals to sqrt of 16, so the value of x will be 4, obviously, because the square root of 16 is 4. So that you just need to call them, but yes, be very careful while calling them. You must be aware of their return types, you must be aware of their exact name, and you must be aware of what kind of parameter list is being expected by those function definitions. So in case of here any confusion in these three things, you can always check out with the help files available in C++ systems. So this was actually about built-in functions. Now coming to user-defined functions. So user-defined functions, as the name indicates, it is a function which is defined by user, or C++ we can say also allows user to define their own functions, and functions can be defined, these functions you can define anywhere in the program, and then you need to call these functions from any part of the code. So whenever I am saying functions can be defined anywhere in the program, what do I mean by that? So these functions can be defined either before starting the main or even after finishing the main function. So you can define anywhere in the program, and then whenever you need them, you can call these functions from any part of the code, as we have seen in the previous example that our main function was calling the function min. And yes, we can also, it's not like that we have only main function which is going to call the other functions. We can call one function f1 from inside of another function f2. So function within a function is also possible. It's not like that main is the only function who can call other functions, but you need to be very, very careful that just like variables, we need to declare the variables before using, right? Similarly, the functions also need to be declared before they are called. If they are not declared and you are going to call them, then in that situation your compiler is going to give an compiler is going to flash an error. So now let us try to explore the general format or general syntax of any function in detail. So we have return type, then the name of the function, then param1, param2, param3 is actually parameter 1, parameter 2, parameter 3, and all these parameters are optional. Then the parameter list is within the parenthesis just after the name of the function, and then within the parenthesis you have function body. Now let us explore all these in detail. So return type, as I have already told you, it is the value that a function returns to the calling function after performing a specific task. So for example, we have taken one min function. That min function is calculating the minimum value of out of that x and y, and whichever value is minimum, that value is being returned to the main function, and main function is going to store that value inside the variable m. So that's what the return value significance here is. Then we have function name. Then function name is actually an identifier which is used to name a function. Function name, as the name indicates, this is an identifier which we are using in order to call the function or in order to name the function. Then coming to the parameter list, it is denoted by param1, param2 till param n in our syntax. These are the arguments that are passed to a function when a function call is made. Now parameter list is optional, that is we can have functions that have no parameters. So do we have an example of a function in which there is no parameter list? Yes, we do have one. That is the main function. Till this point we have not given any argument, we have not passed any argument to the main function. So main is such a function in which is not having parameter as of now, but yes, it can have. So param1, param2 till param n, these are the parameters, or we can say arguments, or these are the values which are passed to the called function or which are given to the called function from a calling function. So let's say main is my calling function and min is my called function. So value a and b are given from main to the min function, so from calling to the called function, and when these values are being passed, these values are actually being passed when a function call is being made. So at the time of calling the function, whatever values the calling module is going to give to the called function, that is what you called a parameter list, or you can say it as an argument list. Coming to the fourth thing, which is function body. So function body is actually a group of statements that carry out a specific task. So whatever functionality you want your function to carry out, that functionality will be written within the curly brackets, and that those curly brackets are more specifically known by function body. Now, as I have told you that it is very important to declare a function. Without declaration we just cannot use that. So what actually the function declaration is? So function declaration is a kind of a statement which tells the compiler about the return type of the function, the number of parameters and the data types, including the names of the parameters, the order and the name of the function. So for example, the function declaration for the min will say that int min integer x comma integer y. That's a function declaration. Now that function declaration can either be combined with the function definition or can have a separate statement. Both the ways it's fine. So but yes, then function definition is something which is in any case required. So function declaration, it is going to tell the compiler about the return type of the function, then the number of parameters used by the function, their data types, including the names of the parameters in the function and the order in which they should be passed. But the declaration is optional, it can be combined with the definition, or you can have your declaration and definition separate. Now please remember, the most common name for function declaration is function prototype. So just declaring the function is actually also known as writing the prototype of the function. So one can design the program that it can write the prototype of, let's say, 3 functions before starting the main. Then it will start the main function. After finishing the main function, it is going to define all those 3 functions. That's also perfectly possible. So yes, function declaration is an important point. So I am having some examples of function declaration. So here we can say, as it is shown on the screen, the first example of function declaration is int sum int comma int. So we can have one function declaration, int sum int comma int, then a complete kind of main, and that main function is calling that sum function, and after finishing that main function we can we can say define that sum function completely. So another example of function declaration is void swap int comma int. So 2 integer variables being passed inside the function named swap, and the return type is void, or we can have void display. So void display says only just integer, no integer, just void. That means neither it is returning anything nor it is accepting anything. So no parameter list, no return type. So both these things. Now coming to next thing, which is function definition. As we have seen, the function definition contains everything a function declaration contains, plus it also contains the body of the function enclosed inside the curly braces. So a function definition, you can say, is the combination, or is we can say the sum of your function declaration plus the body of the function. That is what my function definition is. And when this function is called, the control of the program passes to the function definition so that the function code can be executed. When the execution of function is finished, after execution of all these statements, the control passes back to the point where the function was called. So we can, we'll be taking a figure to understand this. So here I am having the main function in which a function add is being called. So function add is being called and the control goes to the definition of the function, which is written above the main statements. After execution of that add function, after executing the statements of add function, the control is coming back just onto the next statement of the call of the function add. This is what the kind of control transfer we can say between the calling function and the called function. So whenever we call a function, depending upon the requirement, we need to invoke it, and the function will execute the set of statements in order to provide the desired results. And the function can be called from anywhere in the program. It can be called from the main function or from any other function if program is using more than one function. The function that calls another function, I have already told you, that is known as calling function. And in order to understand the execution control flow, we can take help of this figure in which the control flow is shown with the help of arrows. So hope you have enjoyed the lecture, and this is the actual list of references for preparing this lecture. Thank you for a patient hearing.